What is the highest number of hit points you can get in Pathfinder 2nd Edition? Remaster. This is a question I randomly asked myself today. If you're unfamiliar with Pathfinder, then you may not know that when you level up, you don't roll HP as a standard. You don't have a D8 or a D10 of hit points, you just have 8 or 10 hit points. This is also because you don't have short rests in the same sense, but that's for another time. This means that we can immediately throw, although well, for a start you'd have to be very lucky with how well you roll, arguments, and just focus on what mechanics we could utilise to increase our HP. In case you're new here, hi, I'm Oliver, or Revelo GM, and on this channel we look at all manner of things that are relating to TTRPGs, lots of Pathfinder, but to be fair, some other TTRPG stuff too. So the first thing we can take a look at is Ancestries. These are your elves, your dwarves, your humans and such. In Pathfinder, you get your starting hit points here. This is then added when you get your class later, meaning that at first level in Pathfinder, your characters tend to be a bit sturdier than what you might be used to if you've been playing 5e or any OSE kind of content. There are quite a few ancestries that give you 10 hit points, none I could find give you 12 as a standard, including dwarves, orcs, minotaurs and flesh warps, so all of these are a good starting point. However, a couple of them have feats later that increase their maximum hit points further, so let's take a look at those. Orcs start with 10 hit points as a standard, but if you choose the Hold Scarred Orc, this increases to 12. Pretty cool. So if you're making a character who will only be first level, say for one shot or something, and you want a load of hit points, this is definitely the way to go. I say a load of hit points, 2 more, but you get the picture. However, if you want someone who you're going to be leveling up for a longer campaign or something, then you probably want to go with the Dwarf, as at level 9 they can take an ancestry feat called Mountain Stoutness. This, amongst other things, grants you additional hit points equal to your level. So at level 20, that's a fair chunk of extra hit points and puts the dwarf ahead of the orc by 18 hit points. It also stacks with the toughness feat, which we'll get to in a moment. If you don't know what feats are, they are exactly like they are in 5e, except there's more of them and you get to choose at least one every level. Now, as we are talking about level 20 characters, this means we can also bring in the Goblin. If you choose to be an unbreakable goblin at level 1, your hit points start at 10 instead of 6, which is already good, but at level 13 you can choose to become an unbreakabler goblin, which ups that from 10 to 20, putting it between the orc and the dwarf. Truly the mighty of the small. And we will just note here that you can also choose to be a sturdy skeleton, which is like a skeleton, but probably a skeleton of an orc or a dwarf, and so they start with 10 hit points instead of 6. Very much behind the others, but worth pointing out. It's also technically now legacy content, but I'm sure that'll be updated soon. After this, we can choose any background really. None of them have a specific effect on HP, at least in the things I've researched, and all will give you a constitution as a free choice, if not one of its specific options. The same with ancestries. Dwarves give you con specifically, but you can choose it for the other two, and none of them have it as a penalty. So from here we can move on to class. Barbarian, obviously. Having a d12 hit die as the whole thing naturally, and so here they have 12 hit points to start. They can also take a specific instinct to gain other abilities and resistances to certain types of damage, but no extra hit points comes out of this, so it's of little importance to us right now. Rage does not grant us extra hit points, it does grant us temporary hit points, but that's another game to play another time. So level 20, you're looking at 240 hit points from those alone. Then you're adding 12 from an orc, 20 from a goblin, and an effective 30 from a dwarf. So 252, 260, and 270 then? Well, we're not quite done. I'm sure many people would have noted I missed out con modifiers. Yeah, those still exist here, so we have to take those into account. Your con is added just like it is in 5e and retroactive too, so when your con levels up in later levels, you increase your health for previous levels up at the same time. So in Pathfinder, your ability scores are not rolled, you rather choose them and allocate them. And you get some of those from Ancestry and from backgrounds, and then your class will give you 1, and then you get 4 free ones at first level. You can choose only one of them per selection, so for Ancestry you can have 2 strengths for example. Barbarian is a strength-based class, which means con can be a most +3 at level 1 for Ancestry, background, and your free one. Can't be a +4. You can increase an attribute every 5 levels, so at level 5, 10, 15, and 20, and can increase an attribute to level 5 or +5 requires 2 boosts rather than 1, which means by level 20 our constitution can't be higher than a +5, but hey, that still adds another 100 hit points to our total. So now we have 352, 360 and 370 then. Yep, but we can spin a little further. There's a general feat, these are the most like the 5e ones, in fact I'm pretty sure this straight up is a feat in 5e, called Toughness, which any class can take, which increases your HP by an amount equal to your level. So that's another 20 for everyone, as it does stack with Mountain Stoutness. So our final scores come to 372, 380 and 390 hit points. That's a lot of hit points. Now I can also point out that Barbarian, Orc and Dwarf also have some feats that help you gain temporary hit points, mitigating coming damage, or prevent you from falling unconscious, but we're just focusing purely on raw HP today, so we're going to ignore those. You could also technically add another 20 hit points, I think, if you're running the free archetypes optional rule and give yourself the right skill set to take the Golem Grafter Dedication, which also increases your maximum hit points by amount equal to your level, but there's a lot of extra hoops to jump through, and it's also legacy content, so we're going to call it quits there. Obviously, there are also items that may boost indeed your hit points or constitution further, but you can also just create your own items, so we aren't going to take those into account here right now, but if there are any specific ones you like, let me know in the comments down below. Lots of those also only raise your con to 18 or 19, so not useful for a barbarian who's already level 20 with a +5 in their con. And if you have a character who you want to boost your hit points for a little bit, you can always take the toughness general feat like we talked about, or the fighter or barbarian resiliency feats as part of their barbarian and fighter archetypes, each of which grants you an additional 3 hit points per archetype feat that you take. And I think that's enough for looking into maximum hit points for now. So we will leave it there. If I've missed anything out, or there's anything that you've done to get more hit points than that, please let me know down in the comments below. And otherwise, if you want to see more of this stuff, like and subscribe. Otherwise, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.